Hello student, myself Deepika Prajapati from Computer Department and welcome to all of you dear all student in our today's video lecture series. So dear all student, let's start the chapter number 2. We have already seen about regarding chapter number 2 various types of topic in a previous video lecture. But now in this video lecture we are going to discuss about from the network protocols and services as a DNS component. So dear all student, in a previous video lecture we have studied about DHCP origins, objectives, DHCP configuration, its architecture and its type. We have already seen in this we have already seen in a previous video lecture, but now in this lecture we are going to discuss about domain name system object. So what is DNS, domain name system? So here the DNS objective is understand the concept of domain namespace. So first of all we have to study about DNS component as we have to understand the concept regarding domain namespace, as well as we can also say as a domain name system. Then distribution of various types of namespaces, then use of DNS in internet, then define root server and its zone, and last one of the DNS system as DNS name registration. So here this is our DNS objective. As we can say also DNS stands for a domain name space, as well as we can also say about DNS as a domain name system. So here DNS objective is first of all understand the concept of DNS. It means domain namespace, then distribution of namespaces, use of DNS in internet, define root server and zone, and DNS name registration. So let's start first. DNS it means understand the concept about domain namespace. So first of all here people prefer to use easy to remember name instead of IP address. It's known as a domain namespace. For example, IP address defined in a numerical digit. We know computer network classify in a various types of class like class A, class B, class C, class D and class E. So these types of class contain as a various types of IP addresses. So class A, class B, class C, class D and class E contain a various types of IP address in a numerical digit like 192.168.1.0. Something like another example regarding IP address as a 191.167.0.0, so and so. So this is a numerical digit of IP address, and this type of IP address remember in our mind is very tough. So people prefer to use easy to remember name instead of IP addresses. So we can say as these types of IP addresses easily remember in our mind, so we can use DNS as well as domain namespace. So here the domain name are alphanumeric name for IP addresses. So here use as a domain name are alphanumeric. It means here the example of the IP addresses as a domain name are www.yahoo.com. Second one example www.google.com. So here the www.yahoo.com and www.google.com is our nothing but DNS. It means domain name. But here this one is in alphanumeric. હવે હું તમને આનું ગુજરાતીમાં કન્સેપ્ટ સમજાવું કે આપણે ક્લાસીસ A, B, C, D, E આવા વેરિયસ ટાઈપ્સ ઓફ ક્લાસની અંદર IP એડ્રેસ ડિરાઈવ થયેલો આપણને જોવા મળતો હોય છે. તો એમાં જે આપણે 192.168.0.0 સમથિંગ લાઈક અનધર એક્ઝામ્પલ રિગાર્ડિંગ IP એડ્રેસ ફ્રોમ ધ ક્લાસ A 191.168.0.1 so and so. તો આની અંદર જે ન્યુમેરિકલ ડિજિટ છે એને આપણે યાદ રાખવામાં થોડી મુશ્કેલ પડે. તો એના જગ્યાએ આપણે આલ્ફાનો મિનિંગ શું થાય છે? કેરેક્ટર. ઇટ મીન્સ આલ્ફાબેટિકનો યુઝ કરવામાં આવે છે, ABCD એવી રીતના. તો એ રીતે અહીંયા જો આપણે જોઈએ છીએ તો અહીંયા www.yahoo.com જે અહીંયા યુઝ થયું છે એમાં શેનો યુઝ થયો છે? આલ્ફાન્યુમેરિકનો. તો આઈપી એડ્રેસ માટે પણ આપણે આ રીતે ડોમેન નેમનો યુઝ કરી શકીએ છીએ. સો આને આપણે શું કહીશું? ડોમેન નેમ સિસ્ટમ. So the domain name system is an internet-wide distributed database that translates between domain names and IP addresses. Once again, keep in your mind, this is a very most IMP concept for the DNS is the domain name system is an internet-wide distributed database that translates between domain names and IP addresses. Next, here the domain name hierarchy. So this one is our hierarchy. It means nothing but given a one type of tree of our domain name system. So here the first of all tree consider as our head node as well as this is our root node. So here unnamed root, then .com, .edu, .government, .au, .us. So this type of dot and then use the domain name. It stands for our domain name system. So here .com, .edu, edu is nothing but education, .gov government, here the country derived, and this one is our subdomain of our super domain. So this is our root domain and here this is our subdomain. So this one is also we can say about domain name tree. Next, unique domain suffix is assigned by Internet Authority. So the domain administrator has complete control over the domain and no limit on number of subdomains or number of levels. For example, here computer.site.division.company.com and then space computer.site.subdivision.division.company.com. So here computer.site.division.company.com and then here subdivision is nothing but the subdomain of our super domain. So અહીંયા તમે જોઈ શકો છો કે computer.site.division.company.com એની અંદર આપણે એક નવું ડોમેન લીધું છે સબડિવિઝન. તો એ આપણું શું થઈ ગયું? સબડોમેન. સો નો લિમિટ ઓન નંબર ઓફ સબડોમેન્સ ઓર નંબર ઓફ લેવલ્સ. And domains within an organization do not have to be uniform in number of subdomains or levels. DNS name is like a postal address in which top level domain is state, second level domain is a city and the host name is street address. So here one is our some example easy to understand. So DNS name is like a postal address in which top level domain is a state and second level domain is our city name and the host name is like our street address. So this concept is easily understand for our mind. So here one is the top level domain. TLD stands for top level domain. So in any DNS system, it means any DNS name, the rightmost word represents domain at the highest level in DNS tree and then it's known as otherwise it's called top level domain. Second, top level domain function as registers for the domains at second level. So for here example, mycorp.com uses top level domain com. Here .com is our domain and registered the name is mycorp. Here the content about the 7 top level dedicated domain as .com, it means commercial organization, edu, it means educational institutions, .government, gov, it means government institution, and then .int, international organization, .mil, it means US military instruction otherwise institution, .net, it means networking organization. Here the .NET is our domain, not our subject name .NET programming, but here the .NET is networking organization. Here one is a domain, not a subject. Okay. .org, it means non-profit organization. So this is our 7 top level dedicated domains. Once again, com, it means .com means commercial organization. .edu, it means educational institutions. .gov, it means government institution. .int, it means international organization. Then .mil, it means use military institutions. .net, it means networking organizations. And then .org, it means non-profit organization. Okay. Next, here one is the country code domain. So this is a very most IMP concept for the GTU exam, and this concept is again and again asked in GTU exam, having either 3 marks or 4 marks. So country code domain as here. There are 191 country code domain named for specific country in their own languages. For example, here for India, it means here IN. So IN code is our Indian code for our country. So 80 out of 191 allows free registration of top level domain. And remaining 111 countries and organizations must conform to some tax for guideline in order to register a second level domain. Keep in your mind, dear all students, 80 country given a free registration of top level domain, and remaining 111 country organization must conform to some tax or guideline in order to register second level domain. Each of this country code domain is managed by organization in that country and which has its own domain name registration policy. Once again, country code domain is nothing but given a one type of domain specific country in their own languages. So there are 191 country code domains named for the specific countries in their own languages, and here for example our India country, it's our separate domain as IN. So India country domain IN, and 80 country allow free registration of top level domain, and remaining 111 country must be registered in order for the guideline to second level domain, and each of this country code domain is managed by organization in that country and which has its own domain name registration policies. Next, second level domain, SLD. So second level domain, it means nothing but it is directly below top level domain. So first of all given as a domain, so first top side domain, it's known as a top level, and second level is directly below a top level domain. So example, here in example.com, so example is nothing but our second level domain of the .com TLD. It means top level domain from the example.com. So here the example is our second level domain, and .com is our domain extension. It refers to the organization that registered the domain name with a domain name registrar. Some domain name registrars introduce a second level hierarchy to TLD that indicate the type of entity intended to register as SLD under it. So some domain names registers introduce a second level hierarchy to top level domain that indicates the type of entity intended to register an second level domain under it. So this concept is a very most IMP concept for second level domain. And dear all student, in our G2 exam, the domain name system concept derived top level and second level is a very most IMP concept for our university exam, and many times this type of question asked in G2 exam having 3 marks, either 4 marks. So this concept learn be very concept easily. So dear all student, I hope this type of concept you all easily understand. If anyone have a doubt, then please comment on Google Classroom. So next concept, હવે આપણે આગળના concept પર જઈએ, subdomain. So large organizations need subdomain to subdivide their networks according to geographical or organizational boundary. So here the second concept of subdomain is subdomains are used to maintain large domain. The DNS server of top level contains addresses of second level domains. Same way, second level domain contains address of third level domains. To make this possible, DNS server breakups domain namespace in different types of zones. So domain with only two level consists of single zone. So here the three level domain can be divided into multiple zones, and a zones can be continuous branch of a DNS tree that can include domains on multiple level. So this concept is regarding our subdomain concept. It is used for many large types of organization need subdomains to subdivide their networks according to their networks. Then this type of network is used. So the DNS server of the top level contains address of second level domains, and same way second level domain contains address of third level domain. Then this types of hierarchy create, it's known as a subdomain. Here one is our nothing but the URL contained using our domain name system. So HTTP is our protocol. Here the blog is our subdomain, brand.com is our domain, practice area is our subdirectory, and publish blogspot is our page content. Okay. Next, DNS functions. It means domain name system resources recording is our first DNS function. So DNS resource record define data types in the DNS, and resource records are stored in a binary format internally for use by DNS software. So resource records are sent across a network in text format while they perform zone transfer. So whenever a resolver gives the domain name to DNS, it gets the resource record associated with it. So here one is a 5 field each of this resource record of DNS. So first of all given as a domain name, class, type, time to live, and here one is a value. So this is our first function of DNS. Second, DNS name resolution. So user program issues a request for the IP addresses of a host name. So a local resolver formulates a DNS query to the name server of host, and then name server checks if it is authorized to answer the query. If yes, then it's respond. Otherwise, it will query other name server starting at root tree. And when the name server has the answer, it send it to the resolver. So what is resolver working? So an application program on a host access the domain name system through a DNS client that's called as the resolver, and resolver contacts DNS server called name server, and DNS server returns IP addresses to resolver, which passes the IP addresses to application. DNS request. So there are two types of queries, recursive queries and iteratives. It means non-recursive queries. So the types of query is determined by a bit in DNS query. So first of all, recursive query. So when the name server of host cannot resolve a query, the server issue a query to resolve the query. And iterative query, it means non-recursive queries. When the name server of host can't resolve a query, it sends the referral to another server to the resolver. Root name server, it means know how to find the root name server from the DNS. So the root name server, authoritative name server for all top level zone, and there are only 13 root name servers, and root servers are critical for the proper functioning of the name resolution. Here one is a name registration concept. So if you have a website and to register our own domain name, then this is done through register, and a register first verify that the requested domain name is unique and enter into DNS database, and then to register the organization need to give the name of its server and give the IP address of server to the register. Okay, so dear all student, I hope you all easily understand about DNS all types of concept, and if anyone have a doubt from this video lecture series, then please comment on Google Classroom. Okay, thank you.